a rare blood disorder that leads to bone marrow failure. With no other way to help her, her parents decided to have another child. 9 months after their son Adam was born, immediately they transferred his umbilical cord blood to Molly and saved her life. While this is phenomenal, this raises a lot of questions about Adam and his role as a savior sibling. Similar to Molly's case, a young girl in Victoria, Australia by the name of Christina also suffered from Fanconi anemia. She was told that she wouldn't be able to live past the young age of 15. In Australia, the Victorian Infertility Treatment Authority must first give authority for these kinds of procedures. It can only be in a life or death situation, and only umbilical cord blood can be used. Should people be allowed to pick their babies? If so, is it right to use a child like that, and how does it affect them in the future? Also, should the government regulate this like they do in Australia? Please tweet us your opinions at KTFZ News. And now I'd like to introduce Dr. Sydnie, a psychologist from Yale University, who recently wrote a paper of the ethics of savior siblings. Dr. Sydnie, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, we're glad to have you on the show. So, Dr. Sydnie, what are some concerns with savior siblings?
Well, there are some concerns when it comes to savior siblings, obviously. First of all, donating organs can be, or stem cells can be very painful. With bone marrow especially, children have to go through a lot of procedures that just very much hurt. And also, you have to think the rights that siblings have with one another. A lot of times, people would assume that their parents are forcing them into something that they may not want to do later on when they can actually think about the decision. And you also have to think about the ethical issues, because a lot of people would assume that parents are forcing their children into this risky, newly developed operations and helping their siblings, and they're too young to make a decision for themselves. So when they come of age, they may decide otherwise.
Well, in the situation of Fanconi anemia, they only needed the umbilical cord blood. So how does that play a part?
Right. Well, luckily with umbilical cord blood, that isn't painful at all, and most times umbilical cords aren't used for anything. So in that case, it seems very ethical. Of course, still, the child doesn't really have a say in it at such a young age. And a lot of people might add that you're playing God, having a child just for this reason. And there's a lot of different perspectives you can take from that. However, a lot of children, when they grow up, they end up feeling a sense of purpose, and they're very proud to be helping their siblings out, helping their family out. It gives them a whole new meaning to life.
That's really cool that you say that. But how does this process work?
So, 1 in 4 siblings have a chance of matching. However, rather than having multiple children to possibly match, they developed a process known as PGD, which is pre-implantation genetic diagnosis. With this technology, scientists can detect early on which egg will be a perfect match and healthy. Once it matures, you can start to see through in vitro fertilization the egg, and then you can put it back into the woman's uterus, and it can grow and develop into a healthy baby.
So isn't this similar to designer babies, and by choosing one cell, aren't you denying life to the others?
Yes and no. In a survey of about 4,000 Americans, 61% approved PGD. So the majority of people are in favor of this process and the benefits that can come from this. Also, I'd like to add that you're not really choosing specific characteristics to design for your child. It's more just like checking out the possibilities and going through a faster way of making sure it's a perfect match to the child that's already alive.
Okay, so I recently read a study about a lesbian couple named Sharon and Candy. They both were deaf, and they decided that they want their child to be deaf as well. So they made sure to pick the cells that were genetically disposed to be deaf. How does that work?
Right. Well, At first glance, this appears incredibly unethical, and I think a lot of people would agree that this is the exact reason they don't want to make this regulated or common or anything like that. However, just to give a different perspective on it, first of all, this is an extremely rare case. This is not the norm, this is the exception. And I'd like to add that the lesbian couple weren't doing this out of designer baby future. They were doing this because they're both deaf and they felt that deafness isn't a disability. It's similar to if you and whoever your partner is end up not being able to have a child, maybe you're infertile and you want to adopt. A lot of people would want to find a child that looks like them or has the same background as them. Maybe you guys are both from Italy. So it's just about sort of being connected to them, but this does raise a lot of questions. But then again, this is a very rare case.
Okay, so how many success stories of savior siblings are there?
So this is fairly new technology. First started in 2000. So it's only 14 years old, which may seem like a lot, but it's really not in the world of science. With all the new developments, there will be some unfortunate instances, but it's a learning experience and the possibilities are endless. The new amount of life that can come from this will be worth any small obstacle and we can overcome it. Since it is new, there's controversy on regulations, and I personally want to propose something universal. So there's not people wanting to travel to different countries to overcome something in their country, and it's all in the works. So there's tons of successful stories, some ethical misperceptions, but we'll see what happens.
That concludes our interview for today. Thank you, Sydney. We hope to have you back soon. Coming up next, Google buses are taking over the city. I'm Luci Garcia with KTFC. Stay tuned.